Welcome into the ROCC Pod. I am John Gay from Jag and Detroit Podcasts.
I am Lisa Bibby, your local realtor with KW Advantage.
I am Andrea Arndt, an attorney at Dickinson Wright.
And I'm Trish Caruth, third-generation jeweler and owner of Your Personal Jeweler.
Today we have with us Jill Plamper from Distinctive Framing. It is awesome to have you, and I want to know everything about you and what you do and the amazing company that you have, Jill. But I'm going to start off by asking you a little bit about your background and how you became involved with the Chamber. I know you're one of our more active members.
Well, thanks, John. My background is actually not in the art world. I'm actually an electrical engineer that kind of got sidetracked and went into more the creative side of my brain. But I am involved with the Chamber. I have been a member for 8 years. I am on the Ambassadors Committee. I am the co-chair of TAC, which is the Alternative Connection, one of our networking groups within the Chamber. And I am also currently serving on the board.
Well, that's great that you're so involved with the Chamber. How did you first become involved with framing?
So, Andrea, thank you for asking that. I used to do a lot of cross stitch, which was my hobby in college. It relaxed me. It allowed me to have some downtime. And I would take my cross stitch in to have it framed. And when I would get it back, I would always say to my husband, oh, this is a little off, or this isn't quite straight, or this corner isn't perfect. And being the incredibly supportive husband that he was, he told me to quit whining and do it myself. So I did. And it just kind of went off from there. I love color. I love texture. I like everything to be perfect. So I just started doing things for myself. And being the fact that we're both engineers, we love tools. So we kept adding more and more tools to the shop. And eventually I just kind of decided to do it for other people as well. And it's been almost 20 years now.
Well, it sounds so fascinating that you got into this business. So can you tell me what makes Distinctive Framing unique from other framing shops?
Well, Lisa, I have a different business model. Since I work out of my home in Huntington Woods, I see clients by appointment only. So it helps to be able to find a time that really works for someone else that you're working with as well as for you. They're not bound by shop hours. So I have had clients come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I've had clients come in at 8 o'clock at night. But the other thing is that I have a full frame shop in the house, and I also have a full wood shop. So I have the capability to pretty much make anything. You know, working with wood, I've worked with metal, I've worked with many different mediums, I guess.
Very cool. You mentioned that you do one-on-one appointments. How does someone contact you to set something up?
So they can contact me through my website, the contact page, which is my email. And my cell phone is also listed on my contact page. They can text me or call me, and we will compare calendars and set up a time that works for everybody.
Jill, how does it work as far as, can you walk us through the process of somebody has an item, they will come in to make an appointment with you, fact-finding, getting a feel for what they're looking for? Can you kind of walk us through how that normally would work?
Sure, John. So when you come into a frame shop, you obviously have something that means something to you, whether it's a photograph or it could be a textile, it could be a keepsake. And every one of those pieces has a memory attached to it, or it evokes an emotion. And we sit down and we discuss the piece that you're framing, and we talk about what it means to you, because it is a very emotional connection. And then we talk about the environment it's going to live in. There is some education involved for the client as to what is the appropriate materials to use for it, how it should be displayed, how it should be mounted perhaps. And then we start talking about color and texture and decorating styles and what style of frames you like. And then we just start bringing samples out and we play with it until it's something that you love. So that's pretty much the creative process.
It's very interesting how creative you are and how you were just describing tailoring the framing to the client and the environment it's going to be in. I'm currently decorating my new office, and I found this artwork at like a little art shop, and I'm thinking about exactly that, like doing the framing. And my husband has a workshop as well, and we're pulling some different woods from trees that we cut down in Michigan and in Wisconsin. And we're in that process itself. It's so much creativity and so much fun, and everything kind of has a story. So I love that, you give so much thought into the framing.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. I love the fact that you are actually looking at wood and that you've actually have some of your own that you've brought in. We have a similar thing over here. We actually have an oak tree that we had taken down off of our property and had milled. And so we've used that for projects around our home. But I actually really am right now very obsessed with things like natural maples, and I love walnut. I'm a big fan of mahogany. And I just love the structure and the color and the graining in natural woods. And I think you can do some really amazing things with that in a very simplistic way, right? Not getting it too overdone, but really allowing the beauty of the wood to shine through as it frames out your artwork. It's a lovely thing.
One question for you. How do you decide kind of the style of the frame? Like, so if you find the wood that you love, what kind of routering do you do?
So many of the frames that I use come from my supply base. For example, I have probably 250 samples of different types of molding that I use. However, there are times when a client needs something completely milled from the ground up. And a good example of that is I have a lot of stained glass that comes in from a particular client. And she had a large piece that we were doing for her, and we were matching some of the wood in her home. So we used walnut. So I literally went and got a very large piece of walnut, and we milled it to be double-sided. And then we routered a deep groove within it, and we did an inlaid tile into the frame itself, mounted the stained glass in, and then backlit it with LEDs to allow the light to shine through that stained glass piece. So a lot of times when you're choosing to mill it from the ground up and you're choosing a wood, you're taking into account the warm tones of the house or the cool tones of the house that it's going to go into, as well as really, really taking a good look at the artwork itself to see what style of wood lends itself to that artwork.
Jill, it sounds amazing with all this different wood that you're able to use. And I wanted to kind of touch on custom matting. So I was actually over at your shop and just blown away with all of the tools that you have there. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the custom matting that you do?
So matting is a great way to bring color into your art, and you can bring the color in small quantities, like maybe you're double matting it and you just want that little touch of color on the inside mat, or you can get a big blast of color by using it as the outer mat on it. You can also add some really intricate things to the mat itself. There are things called French lining. There are things called V-grooves that you can put in. And you can also use different techniques called French matting, which puts almost like a band of color within the mat itself that's actually done with chalk. So you can do some really interesting and artistic things in the mat as well. So if you have a very incredibly plain piece of art that you're doing and you want to amp up the matting on it, you can go at it from a number of different, more artistic ways to really change what an original mat looks like. One of my favorite things to do is also to use texture, so fabric. So taking that richness of a silk or of a linen and using that as your matting. So you can do a lot of things to add to your artistic piece through your matting.
That sounds impressive. I'm going to definitely touch base with you to make my matting pop when I'm doing the framing. So one of the things that I have used in the past is museum glass. What are your thoughts on it? For me, although it's more expensive, it was totally worth it because there's no reflection and it kind of protects, or at least what I was told, is it protects the artwork behind it.
Andrea, you are absolutely 100% correct. Museum glass is amazing. So one of the things that I pull out of my background, and you're going to laugh at this, but my minor in college was actually optics. So it was transmission of light and bending of light and things like that. So when I started researching different glass to use, I settled on two types of glass or glazing that I would use, and that is conservation clear, which filters out 99% of UV light. However, it does have a reflection and it does have a glare. Museum glass is a different manufacturing process from that conservation clear glass. It starts with that as a base, but it has a non-reflective coating on it, which really takes out any of that. It's not a non-glare, but it takes out any reflection. So if you're standing right in front of museum glass, you don't see it at all. And to me, that just is a beautiful thing because it doesn't detract from your art in any way, shape, or form. Though, yes, it is a higher cost point. To me, it is completely worth it. And I have never had a client come back to me and say that they regretted the use of museum glass.
So, Jill, what is some of the most unique and cool projects that you've worked on?
It's interesting that you asked that because I was actually thinking about yesterday, what are some of my really kind of off-the-wall projects that I've done? The most recent, if I think, Lisa, you follow me on Facebook, you may have seen the wedding gown. So I had a client bring in a full wedding gown. And what we actually did was we created a display cabinet for it where it has, it's about 36 inches wide, 24 inches deep. It's 72 inches high. It has a mirror mounted in the back of the cabinet so you can see the back of the gown. It has LED lighting down the sides. The gown is displayed on a full dressmaker's dummy. There are shelves within it to display the shoes that were worn and the jewelry. And I believe we also put the Unity candle on the second shelf. And then the front of the cabinet is a 4-inch wide ornate silver frame that is held to the front of the cabinet using rare earth magnets to avoid any hinges. And then we also, for safety, because they have small children, put a cleat at the top hidden behind the frame itself that attaches the frame to the cabinet as well, so the kids can't pull it off. But that was quite a unique piece that your typical framer wouldn't have tried to do. Other interesting things are I've done light boxes for salons, makeup salons, so they want to put photographs that are backlit. So we've done things as large as a 9x9 grid milled completely out of mahogany, backlit with LEDs, where the photographs can be changed from the front. I did bring up the stained glass with the inlaid tile. That was very fun. Another one that I really enjoyed was a magnetic chalkboard that I did that I used tin ceiling tiles to wrap around the wood to create the frame. So one of my favorite types of a client is someone that comes in and says, I have an idea and I want you to take, my little kernel of an idea and expand it and get creative and run with it. Those are some of my favorite clients. So I don't know, Trish, did that answer your question? Were those cool enough or should I look for some more?
It did. And I love the wedding dress one because I'm in the wedding industry as well. So that was definitely a cool project.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook and it looks stunning. I wish I could see it in person. It's such a great idea to keep a memory like that, alive, but in a really nice, classy way.
It was a fun project, and it is mounted in a very large walk-in closet.
There are so many cool projects that you're talking about right now, Jill, and you're kind of getting my mind going as we're coming into the holiday season here about maybe something nice I could do for my wife or even my mom or something like that. Do you have any ideas of stuff you've done or ideas people have come to you with that might be good things to think about for our listeners as they think about trying to find a unique gift for the holidays?
Thanks, John, for asking that, because the holidays are coming up, and the sooner you get framing ideas into your local picture framer, the better chance, with the supply chain the way it is today, the better chance you'll have them for Christmas.
Sure.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed doing is we all take so many photos on our phones, right? We're snapping photos all the time. And what do you do with them, right? You don't want to frame them all, but you really want to display them. So one of the things that I do is I create what I call photo rails. So they're probably like a 1-inch square wood, and obviously you can kind of choose your wood. I mill an angled groove in them and keyhole slots in the back, and they come in different lengths. And you can mount them on the wall in a small space and display snapshots on them. And you're kind of creating your own little gallery wall that you can change out the snapshots on it all the time. And so you can kind of, as you take more iPhone photos, you can print them out and display them in a really nice way and kind of make that little montage of memory right on that wall that's so changeable. So that's one idea for the holiday that's really fun. I would also say, we spend so much time in our kitchens, or we have a mudroom or something, and we get we get flyers and we get cards and we get these things that we don't know how to organize them and keep them off the countertops. I'm a really big fan of a magnetic chalkboard. And so you can take a magnetic chalkboard, you can make it any size you want it to be, and to fit into a space in your kitchen or into your mudroom, put a frame around it that really, really shows your personality. And then you can get all of that stuff off your countertops and onto this magnetic chalkboard. And you can also write notes to your family, things like that. So that's a really fun holiday idea. And one of the other ones that is also a favorite of mine is a gift for the mom or the dad. If you have children, frame their art. Children get such a huge boost out of seeing their artwork on a wall. And you can take a child's piece of art and create an amazing little showpiece that you can put in your office, or you can hang it in your den, or you can put it on a tabletop and really enjoy the creativity of your child, and at the same time really boost their self-esteem. So that's really fun too. Way better than sticking it to the fridge with a magnet and forgetting about it after the fact, right? Kind of, yeah. In fact, I had a piece come in yesterday that was it was a Mother's Day gift from the kindergarten art class. And they are cherry blossoms, oriental cherry blossoms that the child made. And they're beautiful. And depending on how you frame them, they come out looking like an amazing piece of art. Very cool.
So Jill, outside of framing, what are some of your hobbies?
I am an avid tennis player. So I have two sides to my brain. I have my artistic side, well, I guess three sides. My athletic, I guess, interests, and then my technical brain side. And so from a standpoint of what do I do when I'm not framing, I am either playing tennis or I am working with the local robotics team. I mentor the Berkeley High School robotics team.
Jill, I love how, and maybe I say this because I'm married to an engineer by trade as well, but I love how you have combined the engineer part of your brain with this passion you have for framing to create out-of-the-box things, and you're still also working with kids and then playing tennis on the side. You are a real Renaissance woman, and I've really enjoyed having you on the show today. Before we let you go, we have to ask you our Fishbowl question of the day, where we pull a totally random question for you. Lisa, can you pull our Fishbowl question of the day?
Yes, let me dig in here and pull one out. All right. What is your irrational fear?
My irrational fear. Okay. Anybody ever had one of those 42-legged little things show up in your basement?
Duh!
That is my irrational fear. I run screaming from the room. I know that I am much bigger than that little creepy crawly thing, but I run out of the room and scream for someone else to kill it.
You know what might help with that? Just imagine that little millipede or centipede thing with a bunch of little booties or socks on it. And then you're like, oh, it's kind of cute.
That's a good take on it. I will try that next time. And I will think about it as I'm running out of the room.
Quick story from quarantine. My wife is very much afraid of bees, and she was on a conference call on the other side of the house from me. We're both in our offices, and a bee flew in, and she had to stifle herself so she didn't scream because she was on a conference call, not muted. And she texted me from the other side of the house and wrote, "Bee," with a bunch of exclamation points, as in, come kill it.
And I can sympathize with her 100%.
You engineers always stick together. That's what it is.
It's true.
Jill, if people want to find out more about you, especially as we get into the holidays, and that is coming up sooner than we can imagine and sooner than we can plan on sometimes, what are the best ways to find you at Distinctive Framing? Website, social media, anything you want to plug?
So thanks, John. Jill Plamper. My email is jill@distinctiveframing.com. My website is distinctiveframing.com. And I can be found on Facebook at Distinctive Framing LLC.
So thanks again for joining us. It was a great conversation. My name is Andrea Arndt. I am an intellectual property attorney at Dickinson Wright, and I help my clients protect their inventions and build their brands. You can find me on LinkedIn and on our website, www.dickinsonwright.com.
I'm Trish Caruth, third-generation jeweler and owner of Your Personal Jeweler. I specialize in creating custom engagement, wedding rings, and fine jewelry. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Personal Jeweler, or our website, www.thepersonaljeweler.com.
And my name is Lisa Bibby. I am a realtor with Keller Williams Advantage. I put the real back in realtor. You can count on me to help you navigate the complexities of buying or selling your home. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Sold by Lisa B.
I'm John Gay from Jag in Detroit Podcast. For help creating a podcast, for a consult on a podcast, or improving your podcast, you can find me at jagindetroit.com or on social media at jagindetroit. For more information on the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce, you can find us at royaloakchamber.com. Thanks, everyone.